What happens when a Tai Chi master attempts to dodge the attacks of a professional epee coach? Find out this week on Fencing Flops. So, a little bit of background. This video was uploaded in 2014. At around that time, apparently the Chinese government was attempting to bring traditional Chinese martial arts back into the forefront of just the culture. They were trying to bring some more spotlight onto it. And one of the things they did to try to do this was to stage a demonstration between a Tai Chi master and an epee coach. The Tai Chi master would attempt to dodge all the attacks of the epee fencer. So let's go ahead and see how it goes. 测试3闪躲重剑攻击难度系数4颗星。为了测试王老师的闪躲速度，我们来到北京奥体中心。
这个都是以快度成来说，对，就是要以非常快的，对。
不知道你能不能躲得过去？
我实际上想试试到底能不能刺中我，我们就互相交流一下，你觉得如何？
好，行，咱们试试吧。
好吧。
准备就绪的王老师来到了场地中央，他今天能够成功的躲过击剑教练的攻击吗？测试正式开始。第一回合，看王老师成功的躲过了第一剑，让我们放慢速度再看一遍。剑尖从王老师的头部惊险的划过，没有击中。第二回合，击剑教练调整脚步后，突然来了个3剑连击，漂亮！王老师一个华丽的转身，再一次躲过了。我们用高速镜头看一下，这是第一剑，第二剑差点击中王老师的脚，第3剑扑了个空，非常精彩的闪躲腾挪，王老师依然没有被击中。So, looking at the very first attack where the coach lunged at the head certainly is target area in epee, but the thing is, there are a lot of other target areas that are, just much more tempting to go for epee. Now, I will admit, epee is not really my strong suit, but I have done it enough to know that most epee fencers will attempt to target the hand and the fencing arm, especially once they get good enough, apparently to be a coach, to actually try to go for that instead. The thing is, it's a small target, and it is protected by the bell of the opponent's weapon, but it's also the closest. So if you put in enough time and energy to actually practice having fine enough point control, basically the ability to actually control the tip of your blade, then you should still be able to hit it as soon as it comes within range. So if you are able to hit it and it's the closest target, then that makes it a very common area to actually attack. After that, it's usually somewhere in the torso, because while the torso is a little bit further back, it's a much bigger target. So even if you miss exactly where you're aiming, you're probably going to get something anyways. It's a lot more difficult to miss the torso than it is to miss the arm. The thing is, though, aiming for the head is not done too much in epee fencing. You see it all the time in saber, but saber is set up differently. So even though you can score to the head in epee, it's not really done a whole lot. First of all, it's a little bit out of the way in terms of it's just higher than everything else, and it's also a relatively small target area. And one thing that can happen, this is kind of a small thing, but it can happen, is because the mask is made of hard mesh wire, and also because the tip of an epee requires 1.5 pounds of pressure to actually set something off, then that means that it is also possible, and also because the mask is actually sloped outwards. If you were to cut one in half, you'll notice it's not a perfect semicircle. Some masks are designed a little bit differently, but I'm looking at the masks that they have, and I can tell you from experience, those type of masks actually have a small ridge in the very center of it, So that would just, everything about that, the hard mesh, the unyieldingness of it, and the exact angle would mean that it would be very difficult for the tip of an epee to find purchase enough so that it wouldn't just slide off. Because that can happen. You might technically have hit your opponent, but if it was light enough and it was somewhere on the body that was at enough of an angle, especially if it wasn't some soft material that gave, so, definitely on the mask, then it would have a good chance of just sliding off and not doing anything. So he did attack the mask, and that is valid target area, but I think he started with that attack as a way to sort of test the waters, because it's very easy to see when something is coming to your face than it is to your foot or your arm or anything else. But also everything here is staged, so we have to remember that. And then the sequence after that, the 3 attacks in a row. I understand they're not actually fencing or, really even fighting or anything like that, so there is a good reason to actually attack multiple times. The first attack, it didn't look as bad as the other 2. And I'm not saying that it was, a bad attack. What I mean by that is it looks like it wasn't really aimed properly. It was aimed towards the far shoulder, which is already it's one of the furthest target areas that you can go for, and it's also relatively easy to dodge. And he did it at the extreme edge of his range. At that range, he, if not going for the arm, he probably should have gone for the torso if he was actually trying to hit his opponent. Instead, he chose something a little out of the way that would have been very easy to sort of dodge. The second attack looked like a very quick remise, and it was to the back foot. Now, the timing on it looked okay, but it also, especially since he's to the side, it would have been one of the easiest things in the world to have the blade up a little bit further to try and target his torso. There wasn't really much of a reason to go for the foot. He could have been trying to take his opponent off guard, attack something that this Tai Chi master wasn't expecting, which is usually the reason you go for the feet anyways. But, I'm not sure how much that actually was taken into effect. But the third attack, this flesh, there's absolutely no reason for it. It was, he's already past his opponent. He's already not able to hit him from here unless he went behind him. So he's not attacking his opponent. He's attacking into thin air, and then turn it into a flesh to make it look like it was actually legit. So this thing is, this guy is moving well enough to actually look like, an epee coach. I haven't done really any sort of background research into him, but it looks like, he knows what he's doing, and he's just choosing very easy ways for his opponent to dodge while making it look like he's actually trying. Because, like I said, this whole thing is staged, and it's staged from the perspective of the Tai Chi master. So, they're going to do everything they can to make him look good. But yeah, everything we've seen so far does not look legitimate. But we're not finished, so let's keep going.
第3回合，1、2、3、4，击剑教练居然连击4剑，他击中了吗？第1剑没有击中，好险呐！第2剑差点击中王老师的手臂，第3剑直击他的脚尖。尽管教练跨出了最大限度的弓步，王老师还是跳步躲开了这必中的一剑。王老师太厉害了。
So that was the third sequence of attacks, 4 of them all in a row. They weren't bad, but again, they could have been done better. The very first attack, you can see here, it was towards center mass, it was towards the torso. And it's a little bit difficult to tell from the angle, but it looks like he may have actually tried to hit him. The second attack, the remise, in an actual bout, the amount of distance that he got from how far up he put his back foot in order to execute that remise, that looks somewhat realistic if you don't know that your opponent was able to, back out of distance quickly enough. However, the actual placement of the tip is a little odd. It looked relatively close, but in actuality, missing that much, I find it very difficult to believe that any epee coach would have missed by that much. Now, I could be wrong, but I can't tell you how many times I've walked into my club and seen not even epee coaches, just epee fencers taking a lesson, being able to hit every single target that their coach has presented them with a very small target, usually on the wrist, and they just hit them one after another. I'll walk in and I will hear a sequence of beeps from just how many times the epee fencers are able to hit a small target that is moving around. I've seen the coach just rotate their arms all over the place, and the students are getting around the bell, targeting the most ideal spot on the arm to hit. So the fact that a coach missed a small attack like that, because he didn't, if you'll notice, he didn't fall out of distance, he missed. It went to the side. And it's hard to believe that any fencer who's seriously trying to hit their opponent could have missed that. Especially since, like I said, he was close enough to hit, he just went too wide. I think what this was is he was told to, make it look good, but make sure that the Tai Chi master is able to dodge most of your attacks. And in that case, he got a little too close, and it looked like he just kind of, at some point shifted it so that it didn't actually hit. The third attack, when he goes for the feet again, there's not really a close-up of it, but it actually looks somewhat legit. It looks like he did try to go for the feet, and it looks like the Tai Chi master was able to jump out of the way. I have seen some epee fencers do something sort of along those lines. So, and especially for how old this guy is, and the fact that he's not used to fencing, despite the fact that it's staged, I think he actually is able to sort of pull some of this off. So the third attack looked okay. The fourth attack, it's a little difficult to tell because the camera doesn't really zoom in on it, but he does aim for the middle of the torso, and it looks like he falls short. However, he didn't really set it up in a way that made it look like he was actually trying to hit. The thing is, in that final remise, you can see he brings his back foot up in order to begin his very last lunge. But if you're trying to chase your opponent down the strip and you're trying to hit them the entire time, and it looks like you might not hit them, in order to extend it as far as you can, I don't think anyone who is actually seriously trying would only bring their back foot up as far as this guy did. I've seen a lot of people in all three weapons. It looks like they might get the very last lunge, but they're not sure. They will bring their back foot up all the way to their front foot, and in a few cases, even past it. I've seen some people lift their sort of like jump forward with their front foot so that they can land further up with their back foot. That's not really a common thing, but it just goes to show that this guy, that this fencer, had a lot more range than he made it seem like. It does look like he's, extending and lunging out as far as he can, but it's not his total range because he landed his back foot a little early. So, again, he set it up nice, but he's making small adjustments here and there to make sure that none of his attacks land, but also not making it very obvious.
第4回合，1、2、3、4、5，中了！显示牌亮起了绿灯，教练激动地呐喊起来：“他太激动了，他太激动了！”我们用慢动作回放一下。5件，整整5件，教练终于击中了实力惊人的。
Okay, that's definitely suspect. Maybe the very first attack. It's hard to tell because of the camera angle. It looks like it might have been somewhat legitimate. I'm not sure. But every attack that happened afterwards, I'm not so sure about. The initial remise, the very second attack, that was aimed, right towards the top of the head, which, like I said, even if it was closer, would have been difficult to actually land. So, yeah, I'm not sure about that. The third attack, you can see, he's technically going for the fencing arm, but he's not going for the forearm. He is going for the arm that is the part of the arm that is furthest away. And not only that, he's going wide. He's, it really looks like he's intentionally missing there. The fourth attack, when he's going lower, that looked like it wasn't close enough at all. And the very last attack, it looked like, honestly, I think they gave him permission to hit him once, and he managed to finally sort of throw some of those micro adjustments to miss the Tai Chi master out the window and actually go for an actual attack. Again, I might be wrong, but that's really what it looked like happened. It looked like the fencer was in control most of the time and just sort of made little decisions and little, adjustments here and there to make sure that he never actually hit. If you spend almost your whole life learning how to hit someone in every way possible, you also know how to miss. And you can figure out how to do it without making it look like you're doing it. And I am certain that that's what happened in this case. It really looks like the fencer is missing him on purpose.
实力惊人的王老师，
太厉害了，黄老师！
你很不错，
哎呀，我完全没有想到你能躲过这么多剑，
我体会到这个击剑的速度，
我也来体会到这个太极的躲闪能力，太棒了！谢谢你。哎，
好。刚开始我觉得他是刺不动我的，我没想到杜教练的这剑会这么快，真不愧是一个专业运动员。
本来呢，我觉得非常轻松就能刺到的，那谁知道呢？1剑、2剑、3剑，我直到打到第5剑的时候我才能击中他。这个太极的这个功底还是非常的厉害的，脚下身体的躲闪能力还是比较强的，这可想而知咱们这个中华的武士博大精深。
虽然击剑教练最后一回合击中了王老师，但本次测试王老师胜3个回合，王老师最终测试成功。最强战士。
So, yeah, that's the very end of it. I'm not going to say that the Tai Chi master, doesn't know how to do anything. I don't know anything about Tai Chi. But especially looking at how agile he is, even if this was set up and practiced for, even if this was nothing more than stage combat, which, I'm not saying it was, but if it was, then the fact that this man at that age would be able to pull it off, that in and of itself is somewhat impressive. But it doesn't look like they really set it up. It looks like they were sort of following some sort of script, but they didn't really practice the specific moves, I think sort of to make it look more genuine. So it looks like everything that was done was actually real. Sort of. From the perspective of the Tai Chi master, I should clarify, it looks like it was, somewhat real. I had to give him props for that. It really looked like he was moving fairly well. Now, I wouldn't say that it was at the level of actual fencing. A lot of it looked very slow, And, more importantly, it looked like he was almost off balance every time he went backwards or tried to make a dodge. Fencers don't really dodge each other. What they will do is, if they don't parry their opponent, they will also defend themselves by stepping out of distance. But the thing is, every time they do it, they land back into their on guard. And it looked like this Tai Chi master wasn't really doing that. Every time he landed, it was in a different stance. That makes it a little bit difficult to say, like, if this were to actually happen, if a fencer was actually able to try to hit a Tai Chi master, that if it would have gone down this same way. I could be wrong, but it looks like it probably wouldn't have happened like it did here. Because like I said, this whole thing is staged and very clearly set up to be from the perspective of the martial artist. So, he's obviously going to win. And yeah, like I kept saying before, it looks like this coach actually knows what they're doing. They're not someone pretending to be a fencer who doesn't actually know how to fence. They you could tell they really know what they're doing. Their footwork is very smooth, very fluid. A lot of, they are a fencer, and it looks like they really are a coach. But because of that, they're also able to slightly adjust what they're doing to make it look like they're actually going after the Tai Chi master, but picking very easy to dodge attacks, or when it looks like it might land before the production crew says it's okay, then to slightly alter it to land your foot just a little bit sooner, to place your blade just to the outside of your opponent. And trust me, a lot of fencers, they have that level of control, particularly epee. It's, like I said at the beginning, epee isn't really my strong suit. But I've seen a lot of epee fencers who are very good, who regularly go to nationals, and I can tell you they have that level of control. So it really looks like this whole thing was staged, and if an actual Tai Chi master were to actually try and dodge an epee coach, they might accomplish it 1 or 2, maybe 3 times. But I don't think it would happen very often. And definitely not as often as they made it look like here. But that's the end of this video. I hope you liked it, and I will see you next week. Bye.